Here we go then, the Brooks Hyperion Max 2 in for some first impressions. So a lot of you guys know my love for the Brooks Hyperion Tempo, followed by the Brooks Hyperion Max, has been unrivaled. Bar the Nova Blast, I don't think I've found a range of shoes that have worked so well for me. So I've been really excited to get my hands on this shoe. And oh boy, it's thrown me one heck of a curveball. So let's dive into this. As always with first impressions videos, we're going to be jumping into how I tested them, give you a technical overview, and then talk about my first impressions. Quick disclaimer, this is indeed a pair of shoes that Brooks sent to me for the purpose of review. However, they have no editorial control over this video, and they won't see or hear my thoughts before you guys get to see it here on YouTube. So with that out of the way, let's dive in and tell you how I tested it. So I've managed to get 2 runs done in this thing so far. A zone 2 and a zone 1 run, nice and easy, and then a moderate steady run, or slightly on the relaxed side because it is indeed race week. But it's what I like to do when testing shoes, just give them a couple of runs out there to see if they break in and see how they feel. So I started off with a 50-minute, I think it was, steady run, and it was definitely on the relaxed side of things. Felt really good. I'm tapering, so naturally I'm going to be feeling good and feeling a bit fresher. Shoe worked really well for me, really enjoyed it. Started off quite firm, as Brooks do straight out of the box, but as the miles went on in that one, things starting to bed in nicely, and I got a very familiar sensation of this aggressive rocker at the front, just rolling through that foot strike. And then the second run was a nice easy run, and I got to be honest with you, I actually preferred it more on the easy run than the moderate run. It was just whether it had opened up a little bit more, I don't know, whether the foam had got a tiny bit softer. It just felt really good, really cushioned. A nice stable ride is a good way to describe this one. So yeah, got a nice moderate run and an easy run done. And let's go over some technical specs before we get into my first impressions. We'll start off by saying I went true to size in this shoe, which is a UK 13, and the fit is sublime. In terms of stack height, we're talking about 36.25 mil in the heel, 30.25 in the forefoot, meaning we have a 6mm heel to toe drop. And in my UK size 13, it comes in at 346 grams or 12.2 ounces. And as always, we'll start our way at the back of the shoe, talk about the heel counter, ankle collar, tongue lacing, upper, midsole, and finish with the outsole. So we have a lightweight mesh that runs all the way around the shoe, and we've got some serious structure here if we start in the back. So you'll notice I'm going to try not to do too much of a comparison between the first version, because I think there's a whole different video in that one, but we've definitely got a more built up back section here with more of an aggressive flare away from the Achilles. Lets you slide your foot into the shoe well. I've run in multiple shoes that look like this and have more of an aggressive Achilles flare away. Absolutely fine, and some good cushioning in and around the back section there. Very, very comfortable indeed. It runs all the way around, all up the back there and all the way around there. But yeah, we've got some good structure there. A little bit more flexible at the top, but this base section here is nice and rigid. Ankle cut is good, sits under the ankle bone nicely, and the tongue is indeed paper thin and it's gusseted. This is a really nice tongue, and for me, an improvement on the previous version. The previous version had some padding down the top to stop the pressure from the laces. This one doesn't have that, but the way that the gusset fits over the top of the foot is just really nice, and it wraps and hugs the top nicely. And we've got some grooved laces here, so that when you do cinch things down, you get a really good lockdown sensation. They bite in together and they just don't come loose. So again, if you saw my last video on the last shoe review where we were talking about those Adidas SL2 laces being cheese wire, this is what they need to implement, something more like this. So far, so good. And as I mentioned, that breathable mesh runs all the way around the shoe. Very comfortable fit. Again, a big change from the previous version. And it is, I said lightweight, it's quite stretchy. Reminds me of the New Balance 1080 version 10 or 11, whichever one I had. There's a little bit of flex in there. It does mold nicely to the top of the foot, and I tell you what is a really standout feature of this shoe, the width in the toe box. It's so nice, so accommodating, and again, I've talked recently about that Adidas SL2. I don't want to bring it up too much, but obviously sort of maybe squeezing your foot into something that doesn't quite work for you, this foot shape is just so much better. So if you have a wider foot, you'll find this one to be slightly more accommodating in the forefoot. And as I said, that runs all the way around and is really good. In the midsole, we have a full one piece of DNA Flash version 2, an upgrade from the previous version with a, what do they call it, a speed vault plate, which you can see through the base there. And you can see the wing of it coming out the side here that runs front to back. And actually, is it on this side? It's more obvious on this side. If you trace this line, you can see where that plate runs through the shoe. So it's not carbon, but it just adds a little bit of stability to the shoe. And yeah, this midsole, I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. Just like the previous Brooks versions, as I took my first steps, I was really worried. I won't lie, it was super firm. But literally within a couple of miles, it really started to open up. And I tend to find that the firmer midsoles, that's what happens. And as I said, on this second easy run, it was much more forgiving, but very much a similar sensation to what we found in the previous version. So yeah, really enjoyed that. And then the rubber outsole coverage is mainly in the forefoot, some exposed midsole in the middle there, and a cutout where you can see that speed vault board there, and a bit on the back heel section here. And the rest of it is exposed midsole, but some good rubber coverage. I did the skid test like I did in the Adidas SL2, and this grip, just as per the previous versions, is so much better. Really good. I tested it in wet conditions and dry conditions, and it's a big thumbs up. So that's it for the tech. So with all that out of the way, let me give you my first impressions of the shoe. As you can see, I've been dying to test this for so long. And my word, it threw me one heck of a curveball. In name, it might be the successor to the Hyperion Max, but let me tell you, this is a completely different shoe, and I think I'd love to test it out. Fingers crossed I can at some point, but I do think the Hyperion 2 is actually more of a natural successor to the Max than this thing. This has had a big overhaul, and let me drop a big fact for you right now. This is 76, yes, 76 grams heavier than the previous version. That is the biggest weight gain in a shoe that I have ever reviewed from version to version. So we're talking 270 grams for the previous version, 346 for this one. It is nuts, but there are various reasons for it, and I do think this has completely changed direction. So if you're looking for that lightweight, nimble, non-plated shoe that's fast and has an aggressive rocker, this is not now the shoe that you are looking for. I do think it's going to be the Hyperion 2. So I've done some research. I've tried to avoid watching so many reviews on this shoe to hear other people's thoughts. And so far I've been successful. I'll start watching some now. I've recorded my thoughts, but I know the Hyperion 2 is much more similar. They've added stack height from the previous version, which I wasn't a massive fan of, but I'm really keen now to try version 2. And I think that's going to be much more like the Max was originally. So some of the changes that I think have added to that weight, the heel counter here is so much more bulky. It is really comfortable. There's nothing updated in the shoe that I don't like, so everything about it is good, but it's completely taken away from the DNA that it was previously. So we're much bulkier here. The upper, the knit upper, is naturally heavier. I say it's lightweight, oh sorry, mesh. It's lightweight, but it's, again, the other upper in the previous version was paper thin. They've added more stack height, so they've added 4mm stack height more to the heel. They've added 6mm more to here, so we've changed from an 8mm drop to a 6mm drop. Plus we've added the plate in there. Now we've got some blown rubber up on the outside here. So obviously the midsole doesn't quite go up that high, so that cradles the foot in. And all of these things add up to this extra weight in the shoe. But I have to say, when I took it out there today, I was blown away at how much of a beautiful cruising shoe is. it does put it into a different category now. You are looking at something that you can lace up and log some long miles in. So if you enjoy that Brooks feeling from the Max, from the Tempo, but you want something with a little bit more sturdiness, a little bit more stability, then you're gonna find this one to be an absolute winner. If you're looking for something still lightweight and nimble and a successor to the previous version, then this probably isn't the one for you, and you might want to consider looking at the Hyperion 2. So what I think I have to do here, maybe you guys have to do, and probably other reviewers, I haven't watched their videos yet as I mentioned, but we've got to take away from the fact that maybe we're looking for an update to the previous version. Yes, I know we have an update to it, but if we're looking for something similar in that line and maybe something that they're just trying to refine, we're not going to get it here. So if I take that out of my head and just take it as the shoe it is, how's it worked for me? How does it feel? How does it fit? It gets a big thumbs up for so much of it, but it just isn't what I was expecting, probably maybe you guys were expecting. I'm sure you've watched reviews on it already, so you had an idea as to what to expect, but for me, definitely, it's going to be a great shoe for marathon training. I can envisage using this in probably some of my LT1 sessions, for my double threshold days. I can envisage using it for my long runs, but I do try and avoid plated shoes on a lot of occasions, so it won't get the most use, and so that's definitely why I'm really keen to try the Hyperion 2. I think that's going to be a good option for so many of us out there that have enjoyed the Tempo and the original Max. But yeah, overall, I've got to say the fit and the comfort and everything, the wide toe box, it was one of those shoes that I just put my foot in and went, why do I bother trying to squeeze my foot into stuff that just doesn't maybe quite work for me? Why am I cutting ends in the toe? Why am I pulling out insoles just to make my foot fit in there when I can get something like this and it just fits absolutely perfect? So Brooks is just obviously one of those brands that really works for me. So many of them do. Saucony's another one, but there are just some like Adidas that just don't. So it's refreshing to test something like this that feels good. So yeah, I won't waffle on anymore. You've probably got the gist of it. A brilliant shoe, very enjoyable, and I do think a lot of you that have enjoyed the Brooks shoes so far will really like this, but just have your mindset ready that this isn't going to be an update to what you've enjoyed before. This is probably going to be an addition to, and genuinely, in all honesty, I actually think you could have the Max and the Max 2 in the same lineup. I think they could do different jobs, because I did some strides in the end of my easy run in it, and I'm going to be honest with you, they felt good, but they didn't feel excellent, and I think it comes down to maybe the bulk of the shoe. I definitely feel the shoe's wider than the previous version, and with it being a lot heavier, it's definitely not as light and nimble. I could find the Max that I could just turn over so fast. Those 20+ mile long runs where I'd be picking up the pace, chucking intervals in the middle of there, it was just so effortless. Whether I can do it in this, time will tell. But if you follow the training series on the channel leading up to Abingdon Marathon in October, I guess you'll find out, because we'll be using it a lot through there. So that's it from me today, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Brooks Hyperion Max 2. Have you managed to grab a pair? Will you be grabbing a pair? It'd be great to hear from you down in the comments below. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, sharing it with your friends, and of course subscribing to the channel for weekly running content, and I'll see you on the next one.